Hey, ladies, and welcome back to the Girl Talk podcast. My name is Brandy Blaine, and I am here with my first lady. Hey, Pastor Lachelle.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good.
We got some tea. We've been having,
We
tell
do.
you, this year has been full of tea sipping.
It has.
I mean-
hot, cold, lukewarm, all of that. But
All
it's been
kinds
good.
of tea.
Yeah, and I've enjoyed it.
I have too. It's been so much fun. Just
Yeah.
a recap. Our first one was tea on with our relationship.
ourselves.
Yeah, with our relationship with God
with,
first.
with God.
And then self, which was
Uh-huh.
probably one of our very popular ones.
Yeah.
We got to learn about health and
Health.
wellness, how to eat right,
Yes.
exercise, and then what was it neighboring with our neighbors?
Neighboring, yes, to be a good neighbor.
And then we had relationship with friends.
with friends.
That was
Yeah,
amazing
that
too.
Was still a
And
favorite
then
of mine.
last month I think we did singles.
Singles.
And this month we have marriage.
Marriage. If
So
you
we-
like it, then it should.
I
Okay,
know.
sorry, never mind. But I am excited about our topic of marriage. But to get us kicked off, we do have two great guests. Do you want to introduce them?
We have. Let them introduce themselves.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, who's going first? Go ahead.
Go, Tiff.
All right. Hey, I'm Tiffany Wooten.
Mm-hmm.
And
And since we're
What
talking about
else?
marriage, how many years have you been married?
Okay. Well, my husband Brad and I have been married almost 15 years. in
Professionals.
August.
Mhm. Professionals. Okay.
And
And
how many kids do you guys
Oh.
have?
We have three boys.
three boys. And disclaimer, I do love those boys, especially Tate. But and yes,
Hi, I'm Pamela Hayes, and I have been married 28 years.
Wow.
Charles says he wants all of his time, so we've been together 30.
okay, I'm not mad at that. Collect all my years.
get
Yeah.
credit.
Pre-married, however long I've been in the trenches, but you count them all up. So I'm not mad at that.
Brandy, how long have you guys been married?
15 years.
Wow.
15 years, 2 kids. Yeah, we trucking on along. You know,
And
15
Pastor
years.
Tim and I have been married 34 years. We just had an anniversary. That's why I'm stuck on 33. But we just anniversary 34 years, and we dated 5 years before
Wow.
that.
Yeah.
So we've been together 39 years.
Well, hold on. Let me go back and
Almost.
get my receipts. Then.
Almost 40
redeemed
years,
it all.
almost all my life, you know?
yeah,
So we're just going to have a conversation about marriage.
yeah. I'm excited about it.
Let's do it.
I think even a couple days ago there was the reel, and Tiffany, you and Brad were on, and he was saying a couple good things, but it was one thing that I really love that he said. I know when we're married, everybody talks about all the time about date night, but the reality of actually being able to have a date night, depending on what season of life you're in.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes people even glorify marriage with the aspect of, oh, it's date night, you know. But he said something so great, and I had to laugh because I kind of resemble that myself when he said, you know, our kids know to go in their room at 7 and they're on their own. And my friend made the statement, because I'm nobody's mother after 7 o'clock. And I thought I was the only one, because for me it's 8 o'clock, you know, and my oldest, he'll still be up, and I'm like, it's 8:02. I'm not your mama. Figure that out. So can you elaborate on that? Because the reality is I do think we glorify a date night, but the reality is sometimes we're home with our families, and depending on what season. So can you elaborate some more on that?
Yeah. So one of the things he kind of alluded to was we kind of always felt like are we not a good married couple because we don't have a date night? Like we would internalize other couples saying we love date nights, you should have
Yeah.
a date night. We internalize that as like something's wrong with our marriage.
Like, this is the standard.
because that
date
did
night.
not feel like something that we needed
Yeah.
or really have ever needed.
Yeah.
And I think what he was saying was I clock out at 7 as mom.
Yes, honey.
And then that's our time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every
that's so
night.
good.
We whatever it is we need to do. Sometimes we just talk, sometimes we watch a movie, sometimes we
Yeah.
just do different things, and that's our connecting time. And I think he kind of did have an epiphany when he was saying that. I was like, well, that's why we've never felt this need for a date night. Date nights to us feel like, oh my God, I gotta organize a babysitter. We gotta pay the babysitter. Then we gotta go plan. Where do we want to eat?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what are we? I gotta put
a lot
on
to put in
makeup
thought.
and like get real shoes on. I don't want to always do that, you know.
Right.
That's what I love about my marriage with my husband is
Yeah.
that we just like to enjoy time with each other. We don't have to get all.
I
dressed
think
up
that date night or that spending time with one another, it can look different, you know.
Yeah,
and I think it's
absolutely. Yeah.
the getting together and spending time and communicating. What I feel like I missed out on is putting the kids to bed at
Yeah,
7 o'clock.
right,
Yeah.
right. I was thinking that.
Why?
Like,
Yeah.
Why didn't somebody tell me that? Like,
Listen,
you know what I'm saying?
it's not 7, but it's 8. It was always 8 for us, and we live by it. And I would
yeah.
tell women, when you put those kids to bed, I just think, I know this isn't about parenting, but I know parenting comes into marriage.
Yeah.
But when you have a schedule, I would tease and tell people, at 8 o'clock, honey, we hanging from the chandeliers doing whatever I want, whether I want to be in his face or be on my own. Because then it's saying it's not just when when it's 11 o'clock that I have me time, because at that time I don't even know who I am. But I love that because it's true.
Delirious
You
after a
do.
certain time.
And so I want to be able to enjoy my show or enjoy my husband or enjoy a conversation, but without not feeling like this horrible parent, but of just having a great schedule. And so I think when we're able to do that with our kids, put them on the schedule, you still are able to redeem some of that time. Pam, any thoughts about that? I know that y'all have 4 and y'all are empty nesters now and out of that season, but what did that look like in reference to date night, quality time?
Well, it's funny you say that because I didn't get it, but Charles did. And I think because I was so focused on being a mom that, I wanted to hold on to him until I couldn't stay up with him any longer. And Charles was like, put them rascals down.
Bye.
And it'd be like, but no, they're not ready to go. And he's like, put them down so we can get some time. So again, I'm glad that you guys are getting it now. I wish I had that revelation.
Yeah.
But again, my way of coming into a marriage was so different. The expectations were different at that time for me. So for me, that was different.
That was great. You used the word expectation that I immediately jumped out at me from the reel. And someone shared that basically, I think when their expectations are always disappointment to follow. And I was like, oh, you better preach. That's the word. And it is.
That was Brad.
That was
Brad. I told she knows I love
He's
him
very
anyway.
wise.
But that was a word, because even like you said, even with those expectations, a lot of times it's the assumption. And for me, I'm gonna make my own definition. An expectation is my assumption of something that I think
Yeah.
and the reality
There
is
you
you
go.
don't.
You don't.
That's the key.
And so let's touch on that. In marriage, we go into with a lot of expectations. So who wants to jump in and share maybe how you got your toes stepped on in reference to an expectation that you had going into your marriage, and then how you learned to navigate through that?
I'll jump out there and be vulnerable. I don't know. It was, I think, an expectation that Tim put on me, so he can only talk what expectation I put on him. So
Right.
expectation
Fair.
that I was going to be a cook like his mom. And when I met Tim, his mom spoiled them, right? Like she was strict. I mean, she was tough, but when it came to cooking,
She loved them with
oh
food.
my gosh,
Yeah.
they really never sat at the dinner table because it was different times. But she would bring up, them TV trays.
The trays.
Sit it up, bring their food, put it
Oh,
on.
wow.
That was her love language.
I
for
was
them.
like, what in the world? And then, of course, back then I was so shy. It's like, you want some? Oh, no. And then I would be sneaking and eating his food. She was like, don't eat his food.
Don't touch my son food.
I was like,
I'm that
whoa.
mama. Don't touch his food.
So
I
I
asked
think an
you.
expectation he had to come to grips with early on. Now I got better later.
Yeah.
But that I don't. First of all, I can't cook like her.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. I'm secure.
Yeah.
I'm good now.
Absolutely.
But it was hamburger helper to start out.
But he ate.
He did. He thought this is the best hamburger helper ever. And I think there was the expectation that maybe that was what it was going to be like for me. And he found out folding clothes. We all fold clothes.
Yeah.
We all help out with these kids. You gonna bathe and I'm gonna bathe, and I know you work, you go, but you can help.
Yeah, I agree.
And so I think those are expectations probably that neither one of us saw in our own families, and we brought to our marriage. And
That's so true.
I think we got not a rude awakening, but a good awakening.
Yeah, I mean, you were in it, and then you had to figure out, hey, I ain't your mama.
I am not. That has happened a couple times. I'm not her.
But he in numerous ways, he doesn't want you to be.
Yeah.
And so even in that, I think we can appreciate the differences once the expectations are now diminished. Like,
What's so
let's
funny,
speak
Brandy?
facts.
It's when I did get better at cooking. I remember one time I made dressing, and he loves my dressing for Thanksgiving.
Okay.
And we went to Thanksgiving. He said, "Mom, Lachelle makes the best dressing." I was like, "Shoot."
Don't-
He's like, "That's the
don't
best
tell
dressing
me.
I've ever
tell me.
had."
Oh my goodness.
Did
I know
get eyes?
she rolled her eyes.
yeah.
I knew she did.
I was like,
I knew she did. Because I would have done
I
that.
want her to like me.
I would have done that too. I would have done that too. Tiffany, any expectation that you had to lay at the altar and say, okay, that was my bad, Brad, not yours?
Oh goodness. Well, that last little part that you just said twisted what I was thinking
Oh.
of sharing, because it's similar lines of what Lachelle just shared. But I'm gonna have to think about that
That's
one.
okay.
I'm
That's
sorry, I don't
okay.
have anything on
Yeah,
that
that's
one.
okay.
Yeah.
Pamela V.
Yeah, I had a lot of expectations until I finally realized that the expectations they were in my head what I was expecting and never communicated to Charles
Yeah.
the expectation. So that's where the hurt feelings came in, because it was like, no, you're supposed to do it. And he's like, well, when were you going to tell me that was what you were expecting?
Osmosis, you didn't get the memo.
You didn't, so I had to learn to put the burden on God, that lower my expectations for Charles, and put my expectations in God, that he would move.
Yeah.
Again, that we would have open dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
You got to talk about it first before you can put it there. So I think that's where my feelings got hurt, because I had it in my head and I never communicated.
That's good. And communication is so big. I know for me, one of my things between Kirk and I would have the expectation of, I loved our differences, but when I wanted us to be alike, I wanted us to be alike. And obviously, that's not something you could turn off and on.
No.
But in my head, well, we married now, so you need to know when we on the same, we need to be on the same page. And so again, without communication, and for those who know my husband, he just looked at me like, no, I ain't doing that. That's not what I'm doing. And for me, in the beginning, I mean, what you mean? Like, I will leave. What you gonna do? And then when you grow older and you think like how ridiculous that sounds, because in our opposites, I so appreciate. And to even be able to vocalize and say like, shame on me for wanting to pick and choose when we align and when it's okay to not, almost like the standard of when I need us to be on the same page, and then when like it's okay.
This expectation is a good question.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking like even the expectation of like he should think like me. And I learned that we are like so different,
Yeah.
like men and women.
Yeah.
Yes.
We think so differently.
And sometimes I'm thinking, who am I married to? Because we don't think alike.
Exactly.
Who are you?
Well, I read this book. It's called Men Are Like Waffles and Women Are Like Spaghetti.
Yeah.
It set me free.
Yeah.
Because I could talk and like I can sit here and talk to
Yeah.
you guys, and we can go from conversation to conversation, and y'all gonna go with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, we moving. Let's go.
My husband would be like, well, I thought we was just talking about kids. You done jumped to the TV show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
like, where are you?
Yeah.
Come on.
And I had to learn to stop snapping too. Can you keep up?
That got me so mad.
That was 5 minutes ago.
Until I read this book, is that they're trying to they have to get out of the box.
Box.
And it's not
Yeah.
a bad thing. I realize that. It's not a bad thing. They have to get out and go into the
Work
box
work
or
box.
the children's box
yeah.
or the TV show box. Like, it was like, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I don't have to be mad at you.
Enlightenment.
Okay, honey, I'm moving to the children's box. I'm talking about the kids now. Da, 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 da.
Can we? Okay.
Preface
Are you ready
it.
to move to the
Yeah.
next
Y'all
subject?
ready?
Yeah.
You got it? Okay, let's go. Okay, let's go. Let's go. And even in that, we think about how many times we have to fight through to communicate. But in a heart to do that, we have to acknowledge that there's a heart of commitment. And so even when we think about, I mean, all of us shared how long we've been married. Everyone's been married 10 plus years. With divorce being what it is. I mean, you see the signs by the side of the road. You want a voice? Divorce, $99.99.
Yeah.
I got you 2 weeks,
Yeah.
But just the lack of commitment, unfortunately, that we see in our society. So with each of us having been married over 10 years, what in reference to commitment has really stood out to you? Like, why is that so important? Because it's a lot of days, and I'm just gonna be bold and speak for all of us, that we love our husbands. We don't like them every day.
Girl.
But what outweighs that, I'm assuming for you all like me,
Yeah.
is the commitment.
commitment. Yeah.
So who'd
Yeah.
like to just speak or share on commitment?
Yeah, I can speak into that. So, I think, what was your question again? Can you rephrase
Like the
for-
importance of
the
commitment.
importance of commitment? Yeah. So, I I think when just knowing that Brad knows everything about me, he knows me better than any person on this planet. And he sees the very worst in me and the very best, and he still chooses to be around. And that to me, I mean, that's him loving me like Christ loves the church.
Absolutely.
Because he's laid down his life and he says, I've seen the absolute worst in you and I still choose to be here. And that kind of just raises in me that same level of like, you're right. I see the worst in you too, and I'm still here.
Don't forget.
Yeah.
That's so great. That is good.
You want to go, Pam?
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. That's a really like heart check for me because Charles always defined commitment. And because I never saw it in my house with, my mom and dad weren't together. So I didn't know what commitment was. But Charles always knew it. Even when I was, on the boat, on the side of the boat, Charles was like, okay, don't matter where you go, I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
And it was like, this is commitment, I'm gonna be wherever you are, Pam. And I had to come to Orlando World Outreach Center to learn that. And I learned that through my man and woman of God, Pastor Tim and Pastor Lachelle. They taught me. They not only taught it, but they embodied it. Where they were examples for me. So for me, I didn't know it like Charles knew it. And just that's where I am, where I was. But today we're committed. We're in strong. So
awesome.
I had to learn it. I had to learn it.
Commitment, I would call it the C, is we always use the term never getting out of the boat. We've been on both on the edges at times, and just never getting out of the boat, putting Christ first. And having people in our lives that tell us the truth. I think that helped us know that to help us stay committed, like humbling ourselves.
Yes.
And so we love just saying, like, Tim and I never said the D word. I think one of our most, and that's divorce, one of the biggest arguments, like we can have intense fellowship, not always, but we have had intense fellowship.
Yes.
But to have an argument to the point of calling somebody out of their names, never. The biggest arguments we ever had was when we were planting two churches, when we was moving to Nashville and planting this church down here. And so I think it just showed the commitment of we're committed to working this thing out, because we also have 4 kids that we need to be an example for. And then after that, we have a church and people that are looking at us, and we're light in the midst of a dark place. So
Absolutely.
I think commitment was, making God first. He is the center. And then, because we didn't have examples either. My parents divorced after 17 years. And so commitment, Tim didn't even know his parents weren't even married. So he didn't know his dad. So commitment was putting Christ in the center of that thing, and saying that we are never getting out of the boat, and learning how to communicate in a way that not only do we stay committed, love each other, but like each other too.
I think one other great thing about the true meaning of commitment, I mean, all of us shared being, again, married over 10 years and just the different seasons of life. And so it'd be easy to commit to the person we met. Right?
That's so good.
I mean,
Brandy.
I'm committed to Kirk Wayne that I met in 10th grade at Winter Springs High School. I'm committed to that person. But the reality is we've all evolved so much.
Yes.
And so when you really think of the word commitment, even in those different seasons and transitions of life, are we still committed knowing that the man that we're married to is not the same person? And I say thank God that they're not, because through different seasons of life, we'd hope we've all changed in some way, shape, or season. But would either of you like to share maybe just a season that you really had to cry out to God? And I don't mean necessarily a specific incident, but you could say maybe it was like the first 2 years, or I know for me personally, I'll go first. It was like having children. I mean, Kirk and I, we had a blast our first 4 years. I mean, we would like be chilling. we wake up at 2:00 in the morning, be like, you want to go to Waffle House? Yeah, come on, let's go. We kid free. We having sex all over the house. We just doing our thing, And it wasn't until I had our first child, until I had Maddox, where I was like, I will fight you about my son. And we would get into these. These little.
We do get mother bear.
These little arguments.
And they're their kids too.
Yeah, absolutely. He's your son too. But that was for me the first time I really had to be like, am I committed to this show? Because I could take my baby and we could go. But does anyone have, it's just an example of a season that you really had to cry to God? And honestly, like what you just said, Pastor LaShaw, I had to remember, like, he loves him too.
Yeah.
He loves him too, but in a marriage, that's hard. I'm like, you don't love him like me.
Yeah.
But before children was a season of life for me that was really hard for our marriage in the beginning. And thank God we were able to get on the other side of it. But I know each of us have had a season where it was like, well, hold on, where are we going?
Right. For us, it was our first year of marriage.
Okay.
I mean, I remember the first couple months we were driving to a friend's wedding, just a couple months married, and we had gotten to a fight like before we left on the way. And I just had this thought of like, what did I do?
Wow.
What did I get myself into?
Yeah.
Because
what did I do to make you mad? What did I just sign up for?
Yeah,
I can't just break up with
what
him.
did I just sign? I just got married, and I'm questioning
That's
this,
real,
and
Tiffany.
we were fighting a lot. That first year, we had a lot of stuff going on. We were both in school. He was working 2 jobs. I was working 1 job. Like, it was intense marriage season. We didn't know how to fight fair.
We knew how to fight.
Yes.
It's not fair.
We did not know how to fight fair. We did not keep in mind that we were on the same team.
It's good, Tiffany.
And it was just really tough.
Yeah.
And that's the time when that sticks out to me, where I was just crying out to the Lord, help us.
Yeah. But you knew who to cry out to and what that looked like.
Yes.
What that looked like. What about you, Pam? Just a season where it was you and the Lord in that closet.
Well, again, Charles and I have been here in Orlando for 24 years. So I don't think it probably happened probably in that 24th year when we were here in Orlando, because again, now I didn't know God. I really didn't know him like I knew him when I came to Orlando. Yeah. So everything to me was, what did I get myself into? Because again, I'm not walking spiritually.
Yeah.
I'm walking the world's way.
Yeah.
So again, every day for me, was Charles from day one. When I met him, the brother loved the Lord. It was me coming to know the Lord. And me coming into my own relationship with the Lord. So I would think, probably the in the 15th year, maybe when I finally acknowledged lordship, that I could really like say, God, it's me and you, and understanding that, again, learning through Orlando World Outreach Center, that the option wasn't to get out of the boat, that D word was not on the table, because again, the first 10 years, it was D came out of my mouth all the time. Dude, I'm out.
Yeah.
And I had to learn, I had to come under submission, not only to Charles but to God. And then understanding. I mean, we had a lot of conversation with Pastor Tim and Pastor LaShaw, and they were ugly. They were ugly conversations, because I was an individual, and not being secure, being insecure, that it brought out a lot of stuff. So, I was always crying. I was crying to somebody, but
then you learn to cry out to God.
And I think really quick, because my mom was always the go-to.
Okay.
And I think when I lost my mom, that's when I really realized, wow, I'm in a commitment, and what have I signed up for? Because she was my out. I could go home. I could do, when she died, it was like,
wow. Well, I have to say, I've seen you and your husband grow tremendously through those times, and there were some rough ones.
Yeah,
but
that was really rough.
Praise God. I think for us, it was our first year of marriage too. In our first year of marriage, we had a baby, And we were, on top of that, we were newly saved. And so I remember sitting on a chair and saying, what in the world did I do?
Yeah.
And there was so much pressure to be a good mom, pressure to be a good wife, pressure to cook hamburger helper, pressure. Is he gonna say it don't taste like his mama? Pressure to have sex, all the time,
Yeah.
or
All the check marks. Yeah.
And it was so much pressure. And I remember having a conversation with God. And I said, I'm out of here. I can't do this. And I said, how? And I'm sitting there, how am I going to get my baby and I out of here? And these are the conversations I'm having in my head.
Pack my
If
bag.
I go home, my mama going to be like, girl, if you don't get back up there with that good husband of yours, if you don't get back up there. Now, I can go home if I wanted to.
Yeah.
But what is wrong with you?
Yeah.
My cousin, if I said something to her, she'd be like, are you crazy?
Yeah.
This is a good man.
Good man.
And I never told anyone. And I remember the first prophetic word I ever got, because I was kind of like iffy on on prophecy anyway. Like, is this Lord? Is this really? Who is this? And I remember my first prophetic word, and the man looked dead at me and he said, "Why?" I knew exactly what he was talking about. All he said was, "Why?" And I start bawling. And he said, "Why do you want to leave this man?" Now, Tim's sitting right here. He had no idea.
Clueless.
He is clueless. He said, "Why do you want to leave this man? And you love him?" And I just bawled. And he just began to minister to me about the holes, the insecurities that he was feeling, that the Lord was feeling in me. And what was so funny about that, after all the ministry and it was good, and we got outside the door, he goes, "You were going to leave?"
That brother had no clue.
He had no idea. But I'm so glad for that word.
Yeah.
God needed to tell me. He
Yeah.
needed to show me that
Specifically.
the prophetic was real, because nobody knew
Knew, yeah.
but me and God.
Yeah.
And that he was healing some things in me, and that he knew I loved him, and I didn't want to do it, but I didn't know a way out. So I thank God for that. And then we're sitting here 34 years later.
Hey, praise God. Praise
You know?
God.
So
Well, let's go ahead, and if you could give one thing to someone who is about to enter marriage, or I'll give you two options: about to enter marriage as a newlywed, or someone who is having a Pastor Lachelle moment and is willing to call it quits, not because of anything that was done to them, but just because maybe just lies from the enemy or life. What was something that you'd share either to a newlywed or someone who just wants to call marriage quits?
I'll go first real quick. I think you should understand the covenant, that God has structure. When you look at Abraham and Sarah, God had structure. Even with Adam and Eve, he put a structure there for what a covenant was supposed to look like. And I would think that my advice to people newly married is to understand the structure of the covenant before you go in, because once you understand that, you understand what it looks like to submit, and only not submit to God first, but submit to your husband. Only we walk side by side with them, but at the end of the day, like Pastor Lachelle said, it's like a CEO. At the end of the day, somebody got to make a decision. So God's gonna give the man the nod. It's nothing against us.
Yeah.
But he already placed it. If we go back and look at it from day one, he gave Adam the ability to make the call.
Yeah.
Eve didn't take anything from Eve. He's just saying at the end of the day, when somebody's got to make a call,
It's going to be the
it's
man.
going to be the man.
And I love how Pastor Tim says, when the Lord come and knock at your door, you answer as the wife. Basically, where he at?
Where he at?
Where is he at?
That's
I
so
love
good,
that.
Pam. And
Yeah.
so, and when Adam gave the nod to Eve, what happened? So the man better keep the nod.
He better keep the
He
nod.
better keep the nod.
better keep
Tiffany,
the nod.
share something with either newlywed or someone who's saying, hey, I may need to jump out this boat.
I would say to newlyweds or someone who's about to get married to remember that you're on the same team.
Yes.
That
that's
you
so good.
are for the same things.
Good.
So even if there's arguments or disagreements, in the end, you're both fighting for the same thing.
That's
Yeah.
so good,
Yeah,
Tiffany.
that is good.
That's good.
I would say, stay committed,
Mm.
stay in the boat,
Mm-hmm.
and marriage is hard.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
It is hard. You
Yeah.
have to work at it every single day.
Yeah.
But marriage is so worth it
Yes.
Mhm.
because not only do you get to, and not that you couldn't, but in a marriage, in a relationship, when there are where there's two individuals, you get to reflect the love of Christ
Yes.
with two
So good.
distinct individuals.
Individuals.
It's easy it's easier by yourself. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
So to work through that, in that you get to represent, you get to be an example to your children,
Yeah.
your children's children, and even people that walk with you.
Yes.
So
That's
I
good.
would say, commitment, stay in
Mhm.
the boat.
Yeah.
And I know it's hard.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Like anything worth something
Yeah.
is
Yes.
going to
That's
be
it.
hard.
That's
That's
so
it.
good.
So
That's it.
to stay,
That's
get
so
godly
good.
counsel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if it's something that's just cannot be repaired,
Yeah.
I get it. But I don't think there's anything
Yeah.
that cannot be repaired with,
With
God.
God.
Yes.
I was going to say the same thing, Pastor Shell. Life is hard. And so, of course, marriage is going to be hard.
Yeah.
And I think exactly what you closed and said, with God, all things are possible. But of course, we do need both parties to want to fight, and both people to stay in the boat.
Yes.
But I think about how many fights we have in life, period, but how much greater those fights and victories are walking alongside of a spouse, your husband or your wife. And so as long as that person is willing to fight for
Yes.
you and lay his life down for you, I say, honey, like my single friends tell me, it's not too much out there I'd trade it for, knowing that I have someone on the same team
On the same
who's
team.
committed, and therefore I could be submitted
Yeah.
under God, and knowing that marriage is something He created, and can be a blessing for all of us.
Yes.
So,
Amen. That's so good.
ladies, I'm so glad that y'all joined us tonight.
Yeah,
I did
Thank
enjoy
you.
this. I did
was
enjoy this.
good.
It was really good. Ladies, we appreciate you guys for tuning in with us, and we look forward to seeing you at the next Girl Talk, which is going to be the second Friday, as you know, of the month. Don't miss it. What we're going to be talking about, Pastor Michelle?
We are going to do our outreach.
Oh,
And so
yes.
we're
Okay.
thinking it's in April.
Okay.
We're going to do our outreach. And so we're still getting that together because, of course, it's
It's
COVID,
COVID.
out
It's
here.
COVID, but
And so we're thinking about doing some things, collecting some things and taking it to the women's shelter.
okay,
Awesome.
great
And
idea.
then our Mother's Day tea.
Tea, yes.
As well. And
I'm excited for that.
Cara and I are cooking up some good stuff.
Yeah, I know it's gonna
a
be
great
good.
interview. I think we're gonna have an interview with the mother and daughter team,
Okay.
and so
Oh,
not
yeah,
us.
that's gonna
but
be good.
another mother, which I
Yes.
think is so great. I'm so
Yeah.
excited
Yes.
about it.
Yeah.
And so
It's gonna be good.
I think it's gonna be great.
It's gonna be good. Well, we love you guys, and we will see you soon. God bless. Bye bye.
Bye bye.